The first 5-star review is unrated.
Show us your tits.
What happens when National Lampoon runs out of original ideas and tries their hand at a spoof in the same vein as Airplane, The Naked Gun, and Spaceballs?
We get a movie that is held together with duct tape, dad jokes, and a cameo from someone who hasn't been funny since 1987.
Bob Saget? Find out next on Trees in Space. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trees in Space, the show where we watch and review all movies in any genre. We tell you what the fans thought, what the critics thought, and what we think. Was it worth a forest, a small grove, or just a stump to sit on? This week, in case you missed the thumbnail, we watched the 1993 comedy spoof National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. I am Jason, and as always, I'm with Nate.
Hey, everybody. In case you're wondering, hockey season started, so I brought out my Canadian moo-moo.
What's a moo-moo?
It'll scroll across the bottom of the screen.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay. Let's talk about what this movie is. It's absolutely a spoof. It spoofs on the Lethal Weapon movies. If you watch Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, not Glover. It basically spoofs that, plus many other movies. So the story is this spoof follows Los Angeles police officer Russ Luger, who is Samuel L. Jackson, and Jack Colt, played by Emilio Estevez.
Emilio!
I was like, Emilio!
As they investigate the killing of Billy York, who is Whoopi Goldberg, on the tips of a stool pigeon, who is played by John Lovitz. They learn that the murder is linked to a plan by General Motors, who's played by William Shatner, and Jigsaw, before the murderer Jigsaw, played by Tim Curry.
Absolutely brilliant in this movie. We'll have to insert scene here from when he's first introduced into this film, but it is absolutely too fucking funny.
Who is it?
Wilderness girls.
So it's like spoof like any other spoof. I mean, there's nothing.
Well, I find it fascinating because the entire time I watched it, I thought it was a spoof off of Loaded Weapon or the Naked Gun movies.
Oh, so he thought Loaded Weapon was a spoof of a spoof.
No, yes, I thought this movie was a spoof of Naked Gun.
Naked Gun.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. It's just...
And the whole time I wanted Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, no, a train.
But I was thinking, I'm not sure who he would play, but I was thinking that he would... I could see it in my brain about him saying certain lines in this movie. And would it be funnier? And I think it would, because I think he delivers comedic lines better.
Right. And, with Loaded Weapon and Naked Gun, the common denominator is Zemeckis, like you said before,
yes,
and Leslie Nielsen, who together, could you imagine a...
Naked Gun and Airplane.
Oh, Airplane.
Yes.
But could you imagine Leslie Nielsen playing Doc Brown in Back to the Future?
No, I can't. I could see him playing Colonel Motors in this movie.
There you go. General Motors?
General Motors.
Yeah.
that would be, without the high varnish, he can just play it straight, and it'd be so much better.
I agree. This movie, it was, I laughed at this movie. It was a nice, trip back down memory lane for me. It was in '93. I watched it probably once in my entire lifetime, which was in '93 when it came out. So a lot of this movie was like brand new to me. There's a couple spots I was like, oh yeah, I remember that spot.
You remember the wilderness girl skipping and throwing the cigarette down?
Yes.
Yep.
And then I forgot about like the pipe and all that. Like they definitely had a lot of over jokes. They really tried to like over exaggerate it to the point where you're like, all right, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, exactly. And with this movie, most movies try to like still go from beginning to end, but the storyline's really irrelevant. I do like one continuous joke. Colt, Emilio Estevez, he's burnt out. He don't care. His heart's broken because he lost his partner.
Oh my
Claire,
God.
which happens to be a dog.
Yes.
But no one knows it's a dog.
Nobody. So when he's describing it to Samuel L. Jackson in the car, he's just like, the way he licked my butt?
Yeah, like, exactly. It's like, Samuel L. Jackson, I don't get involved with my partners that way. And then he says, how do you get involved with someone that saves your ass 1 minute and then nuzzles your balls the next?
Yeah.
And it's like, when Claire was mad at me, she shit my shoes.
Here's the problem. And this was referenced before, but Tim Curry fucks this movie up. He fucks up this whole
the
thing.
plan, not the movie itself, but the story, the plot. The storyline. Yes.
Yes, he totally jacks the plot up because General Motors' plan would have worked. Mm-hmm. It would have gone without a hitch if it wasn't for the fact Tim Curry jumps them in the stairwell, which also leads us to one of the funniest scenes in this entire movie, which we'll insert the video right around here.
Who the hell are you?
I am your worst nightmare.
No. Waking up without my penis is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, it is absolutely my favorite scene in the movie. It's one of my favorite scenes of all time. But Tim Curry has a tendency to steal every scene he's in.
Oh my God, yes.
He's just...
And he's a legendary actor, and he portrays being the bad guy. He's that serious comedic role, like Leslie Nielsen plays in his movies. Right.
And I have to applaud you because we're not going from beginning to end of this movie. We're just talking about because it's a spoof, an action movie, a spoof. But there was so many cameos.
So many. It's star-studded. So many people.
So many. And this man who was not born like in my time, but was like 10 when
I was born in 86.
So he named them all, but two. And one of them, I knew who he was, Dennis Leary. And I just couldn't get it figured out for the life of me. And I was saying, I'm an asshole. And he's looking at me. He's like, you're getting it. You're so close. You're right there.
Like, Dennis Leary. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And the other one was the supermodel, Christina Brinkley?
That was not, but he knew it was a supermodel.
Yes.
He named like 3 of them.
From the same era.
Yes. It's a Kathy Ireland, who was my biggest crush in, I think, 89 or 90. They had a swimsuit issue she was on, and I just fell in love with her immediately. Found out who she was, everything about her. But yes, it was a lot of dad jokes, as you said. Mm-hmm. A lot of connective jokes, and like I said before, that they lampooned or made fun or spoofed like actual parts of other movies, like scene for scene.
Right.
But in between them, what connected them, they had to make stuff up to make them connect.
Right. Or even like the gratuitous beaver shot from Risky Business. That shit was hilarious.
What was the fun? I'm going to tell you the funniest thing, not the funniest thing that happened in the movie. the loudest laugh he had. It wasn't longest.
Oh,
It wasn't the ha 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 like it
This
laughed
is
the hardest.
this is the stump boost.
Yes, this is Emilio Estevez walks through the light in his butt hanging out.
Where are you going? Gratuitous walking away shot.
Yeah, with his butt in the moonbeam, and he went. It was loud. So that gives, like you said, a stump. So what do you think was the funniest part? Whether it was a moment or like a scene back and forth that you thought was the funniest?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to go with probably the most outrageous scene, and it kind of goes into the funny, is when they're in the hideout where General Motors goes and sticks his head into the fish tank and grabs out the piranha. And then Emilio comes walking over later and sees the ring, and somehow he knows that there's only this one ring that was made in the entire world for this one guy, and he has the freaking suit come walk over the cop and use his hand to get into the piranha
That's
tank.
in the background.
Yeah,
yes,
to grab it. I think that is probably an underrated, funny overall scene.
I remember that, and that's a good point, because that was they set that up pretty good for that, and you reminded me of all the stuff that happened in that scene.
Right. I think we may have gotten a little bit into what we thought, and we probably should move forward. Forward and go into what we think you at home think.
The first 5-star review is from Unknown. One of the better 90s spoofs. Samuel L. Jackson, Tim Curry, William Shatner, Emilio Estevez had a lot of fun with it. It also crams an absolutely amazing amount of cameos that are just a delight. If you love the scary movies and hot shots, you should check this out.
It's crazy to think that out of all that star-studded cast, only 2 of them have had a long, worthy career, and that's Samuel L. Jackson and William Shatner. All the rest of them were just like flash in the pan.
I would say Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he was a cameo.
Yeah. Oh, you mean as like main characters or psych? Okay, yeah.
You got the wrong house.
Is this 1048?
No!
This is 848. That was one of the best cameos, because he just did the Die Hard movies.
Yeah.
It was really good. Yeah.
The first 1 star or less comes from Unknown. Spoof of a buddy cop films is the focus of this stupid comedy that uses dumb sight gags and slapstick throughout, making this film feel tiresome at 80 minutes long.
Some people only have taste in their mouth.
Yeah, and you just cannot take this movie too serious.
No, you cannot. The next 5-star review comes from Stephen C. LOL. The funniest 1 hour and 23 minutes ever.
Did you watch it twice?
It's a pretty short movie, but I know a lot of funny movies, and I'm just guessing that they aren't an hour and 23 minutes or longer than that. Otherwise, that's probably a true statement.
I don't think it's true at all.
Think of a movie that's an hour and 23 minutes exactly that's funnier. There you go. You can't do it. I gave him a whole half a second.
The next 1 star or less comes from another Unknown. I was just thinking about this movie. The best part of the whole film is when they turn the corner while driving, and in the back seat is full of ninjas, and they freak out and they try to lose them. And then they take a couple sharp turns around town, and then the next time we see them inside the car, the ninjas are gone, and they say, "Whew, lost them." And then the rest of the movie just sucks.
That's the thing is, that was pretty much
the end of the movie.
Well, that was the middle of the movie.
Oh, that was the middle of the movie. Yeah.
But that was par and course for the movie.
Right.
Nothing was much funnier than that. Nothing was much worse than that. I mean, there was one scene that he talked about earlier. Best scene ever. But yeah, most of that. I mean, there was a few other pretty funny things, like when Kathy Ireland gets shot and thinks she's dying, Emilio Estevez is holding her on the ground, and she's like, "Kiss me, Cole." And
Oh,
she's coughing up blood, and he's like, See, things like that were just not overly funny, but get your tummy bone, and get your tickle bone. So the last 5-star review is Joel H. National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1 is ridiculous, cliched, lowbrow, screwball comedy, and yet I find it absolutely hilarious. The spoof of the popular 90s movies in a time capsule for pop culture references, and yet it features jokes that are relevant still today. I'm not saying this is great cinema. It's not. I'm just saying this film somehow hits my funny bone. He knows the word.
He does. He put it right there in plain black and white. The last 1 star or less comes from another unknown. Halfway through the film, I ejected the tape and broke the VHS over my knee. This movie really sucks and inspires only violence. Do not watch.
Every time I see that, it makes me want to laugh. Because how bad is the movie got to be? There was other movies where we reviewed where they're saying stuff like, I lost my will to live, or...
Do you know what I didn't tell you about this?
What?
This review came out in 2019.
Who has a VHS player in 2019? Because they obviously have an internet to post this. I mean, a computer.
Yeah. I mean, how you went out and you found this on VHS, you actively sought this movie out and found it and was like, I'm going to put this on a VHS. I hope you didn't get it from your local library.
Oh. So, the WTF review. Wow, that's funny.
Which I originally had as a 1 star or less because I know this is a half a star.
So the what the F? Unknown half star. With such a talented cast, you expect more from it. I love the series this film was trying to spoof.
Naked Gun.
Lethal Weapon. But the film itself just sucks. The moment it spoofed Wayne's World was when I really lost it.
Bitch, please. That was the end of the movie.
It was the very end. After, Claire was alive. They found the dog.
Yep.
The dog was alive. John Lovitz, who we haven't really talked about.
Spoilers, though. The dog is no longer alive.
Yeah. And they all showed up in the back of the car. And they drove off, saying, hey, we're having a sequel. And then they start dancing. We're talking about literally the last 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So he was okay with it. I mean, he said he lost it, so he probably was losing at that point. But that shouldn't have pushed him over the edge. He was already there. He was at the finish line. Yeah. So now you hear what the critics think and what the fans think. How about Rotten Tomatoes and the audience scores? Rotten Tomatoes scored this at a 21%, and the audience, which is you and I, it's 50%. What do you think?
A little high for me.
For both of them, or just audience?
I think the audience is a little on point, or Rotten Tomatoes, I think, is a little bit more on point to me than the audience.
That's rude. So, you heard what the audience thinks, what the critics thinks, what Rotten Tomatoes thinks. Now you can hear what we think. So I love this movie when it first came out in '93. I was a big fan of Naked Gun and Airplane, and it was in the same vein of both those movies. Not to the level of both those movies. I would recommend it to my surgeon. I thought Tim Curry stole the show. I thought he was funny in everything he did. This has some of the better laughs for me in any movie I've seen. Not quite Top Gun, which I've said this before. But it's my kind of comedy. It's a spoof, and it's a lot of dad jokes, a lot of just, stupid funny, but not, toilet humor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. And there was a butt, so we're going to give it a half a stump for the butt, even if it was fake. And I'm going to give this 2 trees, 1 stump.
You said a lot of great points, and I'm not going to go overly bored into it, like you said. any nudity is positive nudity on this show. So you get the stump boost for me. I didn't realize how many great scenes there were until we did this tribute to the greatest episode that there ever was of Trees in Space. So with that being said, with the boost, I will give this movie 2 trees.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here on Trees in Space and watching this with us. Tell us what you think. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us. Feed the internet monster, not the internet monster.
Algorithm.
The algorithm monster. So we can continue giving content that you want to see. We will see you next Monday on Trees in Space.
What?